All right, let's dive into a really powerful story of transformation, one that comes to us from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. We're going to be talking about a prophet, Zarathustra, and how an absolutely crushing public failure forced him to completely reinvent not just his mission, but his entire identity. And it all kicks off with this incredibly strong statement. You see, after his first attempt to share his wisdom just completely bombed, Zarathustra makes a decision. He's no longer going to be a shepherd to the dead. He's done trying to guide people who are, spiritually lifeless. This is a complete and total rejection of his old way of thinking. So that really brings us to the core question here, right? What kind of failure is so massive that it makes you just throw your whole original purpose out the window? To figure that out, we've got to follow Zarathustra's journey and see exactly what happened.
To really get this new mission, we first have to rewind and look at the old one and, well, see where it all went so wrong. This whole crisis moment happens in a town called the Motley Cow, and it's basically the setting for Zarathustra's very harsh but very necessary lesson in human nature.
Okay, so picture this. Zarathustra comes down from his mountain just brimming with idealism. He really sees himself as a kind of savior, and he thinks he can enlighten the entire herd with his big message, right there in the middle of a busy marketplace. And this is where you can see the huge disconnect. I mean, it's almost comical. Zarathustra is out here offering them the key to becoming an overman, this incredible future human who forges their own path, their own values. And what does the crowd want? They just want a show, a vanishing spectacle, like watching a tightrope walker. They'd much rather have the comfort of being the last man, someone who just wants to be happy and safe and never take a single risk. His message just completely, totally flew over their heads. And that was the hard lesson he had to learn. He realized that trying to save everybody, to convert the masses, it wasn't just a tough job. It was an impossible, soul-crushing burden. The indifferent crowd, they were simply not his audience. So, this huge public failure, it actually becomes the catalyst for a major shift in his identity. He doesn't just give up, he pivots. He goes from trying to be a savior to becoming something else entirely, something forged in the fire of that very public rejection. So, you see, his old mission was all about salvation. He was trying to save the herd from itself. But the new mission? It's creative. It's not about converting the many anymore. It's about finding and working with a select few to build something brand new. And this internal shift is absolutely crucial. He develops what's called a hardened resolve. Now, this isn't just being stubborn. It's a really focused, steely determination that's born from surviving a massive failure and then taking the time to really reflect on his own naivety. With this new identity, of course, comes a whole new strategy. So instead of just shouting his message to a crowd that couldn't care less, his mission becomes this targeted search for allies, for collaborators. He's not looking for followers anymore. If you think about this whole thing like a classic hero's journey, the greatest prize, the ultimate boon that he gets from his failure, is clarity. He now understands his true purpose isn't to preach to people, but to find and inspire fellow creators. So who exactly are these fellow creators? Well, they're not disciples just waiting for instructions. No, they're the inspired few who already have that same creative fire inside them. They're peers who are actually willing to go through their own downgoing, their own painful journey of breaking themselves down to build something better. And he uses a couple of really powerful metaphors to describe them. First, they're like reapers who sharpen their sickles. They're ready for the hard work of harvesting new meanings from the world. And second, they are fellow travelers on the rope, which means they support each other on a very dangerous path. Now that second metaphor, that's the real game changer here. Think back to that tightrope walker from his first mission, right? He fell, he died alone. But this new idea, this model of fellow travelers, well, that's all about mutual support. It's about having people who help you stay up on that rope to keep you elevated and stop you from falling into that low hum of modern unease that just pulls everyone else down. Okay, so he's got a new identity and a new strategy. But what's the end game? What's the ultimate goal here? It's nothing less than smashing the entire old moral order and forging a completely new meaning for all of humanity. His main target is something he calls the ancient bargain. You know this idea. It's that old religious concept that tells us to just put up with suffering in this life because we'll get a big reward in the afterlife.
Zarathustra sees this as a poison that just drains all the value from our actual existence, right here on Earth. So his call to action is simple, and it's pretty violent. Smash the old tablets. This is basically a declaration of war against all the established moral laws that, in his view, just suck the life and purpose out of us. But, this destruction isn't just for destruction's sake. It has a purpose. By smashing these old laws, what he calls metaphysical phantoms, he's trying to clear the way to restore the meaning of Earth, to ground all of our human purpose in the here and now. So everything we've talked about, the failure, the new identity, the new strategy, it's all really just the prelude. Now, with his purpose crystal clear and his resolve hardened, Zarathustra's true mission for Earth can finally actually begin. And he performs one last symbolic act. He goes into the woods to bury the corpse of that poor tightrope walker. But what he's really burying is his past self, that naive, idealistic preacher from his first failed mission. Now, this isn't a retreat. He's not running back to his mountain cave. In terms of his hero's journey, this is the return, but it's got a twist. He's actually crossing a new threshold, and he's starting a much more deliberate, and frankly, a much more dangerous journey forward. And his final declaration just perfectly sums up his new loyalty. This second down going isn't for some heavenly reward or a divine plan. No, it's completely dedicated to creating meaning for our life right here on this earth. And that kind of leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? If you smash all the old rules, all the old tablets of what's right and wrong, what do you replace them with? Zarathustra's whole journey really forces us to look in the mirror and ask, what does it actually mean to create your own values, to build your own meaning, completely separate from what tradition or the crowd tells you to believe?